Greetings to you in the name of Yawasha, the Hashwar Hebrew name for Jesus. I'm Michael Hoshaya, and I'm with you today to continue in the series, What is the Name of Messiah? With part 2. In the previous video, we've learned that when we go to the New Covenant and we see the name Jesus, or actually epithet of Jesus, we'll see, and when we're using a concordance, that G2424 always pops up behind the name, no matter where it is in the New Covenant. This is the definition you're going to see. And we learned that it actually comes from the Hebrew name 3091. And in concordance, they name it, the name is Jehoshua. We learned that the epithet of Jesus does not point to 3442, 3443, or 3444, which is actually Yeshua. You've heard people call him Yeshua. You've heard him call him Yeshua or Yehoshua. We've already covered that. Those are not the names. And as you can see, it says Jesus, that is Jehoshua, the name of our Lord, and 2 or 3 other Hebrews. But when you go to 3091, we learned of the letters in the, let me get this out the way there, and 3091, we look at it and it says Yehoshua. Well, why doesn't it say Jehoshua? Well, we're going to get into the letter J in definitive evidence shortly. But either way, it says Yehoshua. Notice that it did not say Yeshua or Yeshua. That is 3442. It did not point to 3442 as the name. As a matter of fact, the Yeshua is like an epithet or an appellation, and we're going to get into that as well. And you also see that there is no W according to the English transliteration of Yehoshua. There is no W, which is actually in the alphabet here under the name. The W looks like that. And so the Yod here and the A, the W, and then you've got the Sheen here, and then you've got an IN, like so. That is YH, W, SH, and G. These are the letters, and when you turn them around, it is, reading left to right, there you go. So those are the letters, the Hebrew letters of the name. We've learned that the vowel points, which turn the W into a vowel, are incorrect because Eliezer ben Yehuda brought them into existence to turn the holy language of Hebrew into a common language. We learned that he did that in 1881. So, unlike those who say today that the modern Hebrew was spoken back in the time of Messiah walking the earth, we learned that that is not true, because modern Hebrew actually got its creation or beginning of the creation in 1881, and we learned that Eliezer ben Yehuda was making up words as he went along. So, with that being the case, we're going to learn about why the English transliteration uses a J in these interpretations of the Hebrew names. And we're also going to learn how the letter W was never doubled as a vowel, and it definitely was not used as a V, as such Jews say today. And so we're going to go on and learn all of that for sure. Let's go ahead and go back to our Bible, and so we can get in place as we go along. Let's get down here to verse 21. Our base scripture is Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. It says, "And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus." Jesus points to Jesus. Jesus points to the Hebrew 3091, which is the Hebrew letters YH, W, SH, G. When you apply the Hashwar Hebrew to that and the grammatical rules, you come up with Yawasha with semi-vowels, which were in place, not the long vowels of the Hebrew influence. Let's go ahead and learn a little bit about that. First, we're going to learn what an epithet and appellation is. You've heard me say that the name Jesus is an epithet. Well, let's first learn what an appellation is. And here it is in our Word Web app. Identifying word or words by which someone or something is called and classified or distinguished from others. In today's society, you may have heard the term elite. This is an appellation because it is an identifying word by which someone is called and classified or distinguished from others. So the elite, that is the rich and the powerful, those who are associated with government officials or even government officials themselves, are called the elite. So, and the word elite would be an appellation. So let's go ahead and look up the word epithet. And you will see why I said the name Jesus is an epithet. We're looking at definition number 2 right here, because we obviously know that Jesus is not a defamatory or abusive word or phrase, so that's out of the question. We're looking at number 2, descriptive word or phrase. What we're looking for here, in order for something to be an epithet, there must be a description or phrase that can be attached to that individual. So with Messianic Jews and those like them say that the name is Yeshua, the phrase is actually an appellation, he will save. That is the definition of Yeshua, he will save. And in Matthew 21, we just saw that Jesus, the definition of, the words behind Jesus say, for he shall save. This is why they call him Yeshua. This was all explained previously. So now we know what an epithet and an appellation is. So Jesus is actually, from the Greek Jesus, Jesus is a descriptive word because he will save. It is a description of what he did. So that makes it an epithet, not the name. Okay, so Yeshua, by definition, means he will save. That is a descriptive phrase of what he was going to do. That makes Yeshua an appellation. So with that being the case, let's continue on. We're going to go over here and we're going to learn why we know that the W, or the Wa, the 6th letter in the Hebrew alphabet, was always had the sound Wa, as in we, or as in what, or as in where, or want. It has the W sound Wa. So the question was posed to Perplexity AI. Right here, it says, let me get my little pen out so you can see where I'm at. It says, how do we know the Wa in Phoenician had a consonant Wa sound as contrast to V or the vowel U? And the answer that came up with is this. The Phoenician letter Wa originally represented the consonant sound W, Wa, not modern V or the vowel U. There are several reasons we know this. Historically, approximants like W tend to become fricatives. I don't know how to say that word. Please forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Like V, not the other way around. The shift from W to V is a common sound change cross-linguistically. The Phoenician letter Wa was the source of the early Greek letter Dagama, the F, which represented the sound Wa, before it disappeared or became lost in most later Greek dialects. For example, the Greek word wine, however you would say that in Greek, pronounced in English as winus, had an initial W sound cognate with Latin venom. Greek transliterated the approximate W with the upsilon, the U, between vowels as David, or later David. This indicates Wa came from representing a consonant in a consonantal semi-vowel glide. A glide is when you place a semi-vowel in between two consonant letters. So if we take the Hebrew letters, the yod, which is our English letter Y, and the hey, which is our English letter H, and we put a semi-vowel, we'll say the A, which makes the sound ah. If you pronounce the single letter by itself, the Y, it's ya. And if you pronounce the H by itself, it's ha. So now we, instead of saying yaha, we're gonna, or something along those, yaha, now we're just gonna shorten that up. We're gonna put a semi-vowel, the letter A. Let me write this out for you. We're gonna take the letter Y, and we have the H here, and we're gonna put a little A in here. So we're not saying ya, and we're not saying ha in the full pronunciation. No, we're gonna put that little A there in between the H, and we're gonna glide right through the, we're gonna glide right through the whole word. Ya. Oh, isn't that interesting? That's what this is saying. Semi-vowels. So the long vowels did not take place until much later after the Greek influence. So here it is that the Greek influence started taking place into the Hebrew language and started being accepted around the 4th century AD, somewhere around there. Nonetheless, we have just learned that, let me go back up here just a little bit. And okay, right here. Here we are, right here. The Phoenician letter wa originally represented the consonant W, not the modern V, and not the vowel U. The letter U, the W, so you may have heard the name Yahusha, which is spelled Y, according to those on social media, YHAUSHA. That means they're taking the W in the, I'm sorry, let me clear that out real quick. I need to do this again because I'm running out of room. There it is, YAHUSHA. This is what they're saying the name is, some of them people out there today going, Yahusha. So they've taken the YHWSHG. Now, here's where this is how they're translating this into this. They're leaving the Y and the H and they're putting the A in between. We just discussed that. Yah. But now they're transforming the W into a U. But we just read right here, right over here, the Phoenician letter Wa originally represented the consonant W, not the modern V and not the vowel U. So they have changed the W into a U. They've left the SH, and the G is represented by a quiescent A. And in modern Western languages, to pronounce the IN, it is a guttural. I'm not making fun of the way they pronounce their words, but it sounds like they're trying to clear their throat or hallelujah in our terms. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pick on them, but that's the way it sounds. And it's hard for Westerners to do that. So we just pass over it as quiet. And now they brought it to represent the A. And this is how they come up with Yahusha. So as you can see, the original letters have been changed. This does not count. How do we know that, Brother Michael? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Let's go ahead and take a look at a nifty little chart which I enjoy very much. Even though it has an error in it and doesn't show the quite full truth, it does show some great truth in it whatsoever. So here it is that we have the chart, which I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit better so you can see. We have a chart that has the alphabets of the Proto-Sinaitic, and we were just talking about the Phoenician. Then it goes to the ancient Greek and the ancient Latin, Rome, and modern Latin. I'm not sure if there's such a thing as modern Latin, but that's okay. We're not worried about that. What we're doing is using this chart. Whomever built this chart, I give them props because they did a wonderful job. We're showing how the alphabet has progressed from the Proto-Sinaitic, which is round about when Moses and all of them were wandering about. I believe that's correct. Don't quote me on that. But nonetheless, here's what we're going to do. This letter here, it kind of looks like that, is the proto-Sinaitic W. Okay, this is the letter it represents. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to follow this little yellow line right here. Okay, and as you can see, it comes down. You remember how it mentioned that the Greeks began using the letter F to represent the W sound? Well, look here, it translates right down to the F. So we know that that is corroborated and confirmed. So let's go ahead and we're going to slide this over. I may have to zoom out a little bit. There you go. We'll try it right there. As you can see, what we're going to do is we're going to follow that little letter there, which is the W in the Proto-Sinaitic. We're going to go to the Phoenician. There it is right there. And you see this line, how it breaks off, and it comes down into the Greek letter here. Then it comes into the the ancient Latin, then the Roman V. Remember, we just read in that article where it sound the Phoenician had the W sound, not the V as in Victor, nor the U as in upsilon or upsilon. This didn't come in until later. Look at that. I want you to look. So we followed our line. We followed our line. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get my pen up there so I don't mess things up. We followed our line all the way down, and here it comes up to what is called modern Latin, which I'm only assuming is what they're saying is Italian. And we see, what letters did we see? The very same letters that was in the article. Look at that. It transferred somehow from all these centuries. It got turned, the letter W got turned into the U, V, and also represents W. But now with Eliezer ben Yehuda's vowel points, they also say that it represents the letter O. Well, we know that that's not true. So, I mean, really, people should stop with all the traditions and trace the lineage of the alphabet to find that it was a W and represented by the sound W, as in we, because that's the truth of the matter. This is agreed upon by theologians across the world. We're going to see that now. The Phoenician, Greek transliterated. The Samaritans, let's see. So in summary, this is a long article. It's on our website, ccgjgcc.home.blog, and it's called False Translations. And you'll be able to see all of these. I've lost my place in here. Please forgive me. There's a lot of information here. It provides the sources also. Let's see, the V in ancient Latin, V and U were not distinguished in spelling. That's not what we're looking for. Nonetheless, we know that the letter W never represented, before in the time of Christ, it never represented anything other than the W sound, because, as a matter of fact, right here, the sixth Hebrew letter, it represents the consonant W in classical, that means older Hebrew, and V in modern Hebrew, as well as vowels U and O in modern Hebrew. In text with nikud, that is the little dots and dashes we told you about, a dot is added to the left or on top of the letter to indicate, respectively, the two vowel pronunciations. Its origin of Greek F de gamma and Y upsilon, Cyrillic Y, and Latin F and V, and later Y, and the derived Latin or Roman alphabet letters U and W. You are welcome to go to our website, ccgjgcc.home.blog, and look up this title right here, Falsehood Translations. This is what it's going to look like. This is all the languages that the stuff went through here. This is giving an example of how the people have gotten the letter wrong throughout the changes. So this is what it's called, Falsehood Translations, the Yahuwah Case Study. So with that being the case, we can see, no doubt, that the evolution of the letter W, I stole that word right there, please forgive me, the evolution of this letter in the Proto-Sinaitic here and the Phoenician here has come down to represent so many false translations, the U and the V and the O and so forth. This is how we know that it is not the case. So, I know this is getting a little bit longer. We're at 20 minutes so far. So let me go ahead and get you into the J to understand the letter J. And we're going to go, I'm sorry, I went to screenshots. And here it is right here. I'm going to have to zoom this in for you. The letter J originated as a variation of the letter I, and the two were used interchangeably as both a vowel and consonant until the 16th century. The process of differentiation began in the 14th century, when it became customary in medieval manuscripts to lengthen the letter I when it was in a prominent position, such as at the beginning of the word. The lengthened form became to be regarded as representing the consonant, while the short form represented the vowel. So, in other words, the long form, people of old times used to embellish their letters. This was an I. This letter, with the embellishment of the curly Q tail, became our J. And this one is our I. This is the vowel and this is the consonant. So you may have seen in writings of books this huge letter with all these little beautiful little wonderful things like this all around it and so forth. And then you might say little letters, Jesus was, and so forth. And this is the embellishment that we're talking about. So originally it was the letter I, but then with the embellishment it became the J. This is why we see the term Jesus. But let's go backwards and see how the Y actually, how it came from the Y. The Y went into became the I. And we're going to go back to our downloads here. And we're going to go to our wonderful little chart here. Okay, we're going to see an odd little symbol here. And you'll notice that, let me skip my pen here. This little letter right here in the Proto-Sinaitic, it more commonly is represented by a hand, and then you would have the little man with his arms up and so forth. And that would be the Y and the H. So, with that being the case, this little symbol right here is the Y. And you'll notice that even though it represented the letter Y, it went through its transitions, and look, oh, it became a letter I. So the evolution of the letter Y from Hebrew went to the letter I in Greek, which is Iesus. Remember, that's the definition of Jesus according to the Greek. The Greek name is Iesus. It starts with an I. And so that the letter Y went to the letter I. And from the Greek letter I, it went to the Latin letter J. And this is how we come up with our letter J. So with that being the case, as you can see right there at the bottom, how our little line comes down and it breaks off. And it goes both ways. It goes to the I and the J. So this is how the letter Y came to be the letter I and the letter J. And I have some information. I'll have to show it in the next video. I don't have it up right now, which actually in the how the J came to represent the Y in the King James Version is it's actually because of an unlikely source, which happened to be the case, because it's unlikely because we wouldn't have thought that these people would have had an influence on such a thing. And that is the people of the French. At one point they had domination over things, just to sum it up real quick, and they would pass over the Y in like the words bonjour. So they would actually pronounce it jour with the Jyure. So if you were to spell it as pronouncing it phonetically. So with that being the case, that is how ultimately, in short information, how the J entered the King James Version. We'll show that in the next video. But at any rate, here it is, that when you see the name, the Hebrew name, like we'll just use Jehoshua, scratch the J. Get it in your mind that when you see a Hebrew name with the letter J, change it to a Y, because it was originally a Y instead of a J. So now you would say Yehoshua. If the vowel points were correct, you would say Yehoshua. But the vowel points are not correct, as we've learned. So with that being the case, let's go back, and we're going to go back to our, well, you know what, let me go ahead and show it one more time just for giggles. Right here it says, and she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus. There's that J. So, but this is a Latin version of the Hebrew name, not a Greek version. But let's look at the Greek version, G2424. And here it is, Jesus. It starts with the letter I, and it goes into the E, S-O-U-S. So, now we're going backwards. We went from Latin to Greek, and now we're going to go to the Hebrew. As you can see, it says, of Hebrew origin, 3091. So let's go ahead and go to the Hebrew 3091. And that's going to be, oh, I'm sorry, let me get that up there. There we go. Move that. 3091. There it is. By all means, take a gander for yourself. Yehoshua. But we get rid of the vowel points, which turn the W into an O, and the E and the A are not the case here. So you've got Yehoshua, which actually is, we get rid of the vowel points and the changes, and it comes up to YH, W, SH, and G. In the next video, we're going to learn how to apply the Hashwar Hebrew to this name. So let's go ahead and recap what we've learned. The name Yeshua that you see on Facebook and you hear people say that the name of the Messiah is Yeshua is not the case. As a matter of fact, we know that the Greek Jesus did not point to Yeshua, because Yeshua is 3442 here. See it? There it is with your own eyes. Yeshua. And the reason they call him Yeshua is because of this. He will save. So if we go back one more time, just for recap, we go back to the Bible. It says what? What did it say in verse 21? Why are they going to call him Jesus and not Yeshua? Because the thing that he is going to do, he shall save. That's why they call him Yeshua. But as we can see, it did not point to 3442. It pointed to 3091, which is how we end up with the Hebrew letters, which are on 3091, boom, and there it is. And we take out the vowel points of Eliezer ben Yehuda. This now becomes a W. And, oh, I'm sorry, I'm using the long version. We use the short version here. The E is right out. The O goes back to a W. And so the W it's just a W period. No, there is no vowels. There's nothing of the sort. So when we do all that, we come up with the letters up here, right in here. These letters are a Y, H, W, S, H, G. We're going to learn how to apply the Hashwar Hebrew to this to come up with. Watch this. I'm going to go ahead and show you Yawasha. That is the name. It is not Yeshua. It is not Yahshua. It is not Yahoshua. It is none of these. There's Yeshua. And if you look at the pronunciation where it says pronunciation right there, it says Yahshua. These are not the names. neither is Yehoshua. So here it is that we've learned that the J in Jesus, or any Hebrew name, the Jesus Greek Latin name from the Greek, any Hebrew name such as Jehoshua or Jehovah or any of these, the J is a Y. So automatically replace in a Hebrew name the letter J to the letter Y. So it would now become Yehoshua, Jehovah, and so forth. We've learned that the Y was always constant until the later influences of the later languages, such as Greek, Latin, German, French, and so forth. So there is no letter J in Hebrew. So we learned of the letter Y. Then we learned that Eliezer ben Yehuda's vowel points are wrong. The language started to become common in 1881, and he started making up words. So with that being the case, we take out the vowel points, we put the letters back to the way they were supposed to be, the J to the Y and the W, the O and the U and the V back to the W, and here it is that you end up with the Hebrew letters Y, H, W, SH, and G. And so there you have the Hebrew letters. We have confirmed that all of these changes have taken place, and it is now time to take everything back to the time when Messiah walked the earth. In our next video, which will be our last video, you will learn Hashwar Hebrew and why it is the proven spoken language of the time Messiah walked on this earth. So when you hear someone say Yeshua, you can giggle to yourself and know that that's not the name. Same thing with Yahshua, Yahushua, or Yahusha, or anything of those. You can giggle to yourself because they just don't know. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to share the videos with them so they can learn that these falsehood translations are wrong and they can actually get to the truth. Do not get me wrong. This is very important. Hear me very clearly. If someone is raised to know the Messiah's name as Jesus, and they have been blessed through that epithet, it is not wrong for them to use Jesus. If someone has been raised to know the Messiah's name as Yeshua, or Yahshua, or Yahusha, which I don't think Yahusha would have been one because that's relatively new. But no matter what they've been raised, you could have been raised from a child to believe that the Messiah's name was Charlie. Well, guess what? I've got some news for you. If in your heart you believe that the Messiah's name is Charlie or whatever, and you attach his sacrifice to that name, then our Father is so wonderful and so great and not limited to man's errors. He will see in your heart that you recognize his son's sacrifice for you. And that's what makes the Father so wonderful, because he is not limited to man's errors. He sees what you believe, and he sees that you recognize his son as the Savior. And that will bring you blessings. But I'm going to give you a little secret here. There's nothing wrong with believing that the Messiah's name was Jesus or Yeshua or Yahshua. They're all good epithets and appellations and so forth. Well, here's what we're going to do. I want you to see something. We're going to go, I believe it's John. You know what? I went the wrong way. This wasn't part of the video, so give me a moment. I wasn't prepared for this, but I'm being led by the Spirit to show you this. You can believe the name of the Messiah is whatever you want to believe it as. But I want you to see something here. And this is coming from the mouth of the Messiah himself. And let's see, let me find it. Here it is right here. I want you to see this with your own eyes. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. Thine that they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me. And so he goes on to say, and it's I have given them thy word. Let's see. It says elsewhere that I have given them your name, and I will continue to give them your name. And so the whole point is this: when he said these things, he obviously the Father's name was very important to him. So when you go up to your parent and you say, "Hey, Dad, thank you for this and that," of course your parent is going to be thrilled and he's going to feel honored that you're calling him Dad. But if he happens to overhear you talking with someone else going, "Well, my dad, Carl," or whatever your father's name happens to be, "did this and said this, and he's proven he's a great father to me," then your father's going to feel that much more honored because you know his name and now you're telling others about it. That's the whole principle of the gospel. What did Christ do? What did Yahweh do? He always honored the Father. And apparently it was important to him that they know the name as well. And so I believe, let's see, oh, you know what, there you go. We're going to put, that's the one I'm hunting for, manifested in New Covenant. We're going to look for John 17. There it is, right there. Here it is. I have manifested thy name unto the men which thou gavest me out of the world. And that's the one we just read. I feel like a fool right now. But nonetheless, the name was important to him. Why? I want to show you why. Let's go to Psalms 68:4. And you're going to learn the Father's name real quick. I wasn't planning on doing any of this, but it's on my heart to do so. We're going to go to Psalm 68 and verse 4, which says, "Sing unto God, sing praises to his name. Extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name Jah." Now remember, this is King James Version. Anytime we see a Hebrew name with the letter J, what do? We automatically replace it with a Y. That rideth upon the heavens by his name Yah, and rejoice before him. So let's go ahead and turn on our Strongs, and we're going to go back and look at that Jah. It says Yah. There are two H's. It's a shortened form of Yahweh, but there's a reason for the shortened form. It's not just because they wanted to use it as a nickname. There's a reason for this, which we're going to get into later. Contracted for 3068 and meaning the same. The sacred name. It said name. So the Hebrew letters for the sacred name are Y and H. This is the name of the Father. I told you that in the last video. But what's more important, why was it so important to the Messiah, Yahweh? Let's look at the letters in his name. The same two letters. That's why it was important to him. He wanted man to know the importance of the Father's name. And this is why it's important to know the Son's name. It's okay that you believe his name is Jesus, Yeshua, Yahshua, or whatever. The Father is greater than man's errors, and he will see what's in your heart. He is the searcher of hearts. But the reason it's so important is because the Father's name is in the Son's name. And if you do what the Scripture says, study to show thyself approved. If you study, then that means you're seeking the name. And you want to know, you want to have a more intimate relationship with the Father and the Son. So you wanting to know the name. Remember how I gave you the example of the Father overhearing you explain to somebody with his name, how he would feel that much more honored? The very same applies. So yes, you can be blessed by the epithet Jesus, by the appellation Yeshua or Yahshua. You can be blessed by all these. But if you know the name and you use the name, you will be blessed even more so. How do I know this? Because I've done it. I was blessed by using Jesus before I knew. But now that I know, I have a greater peace. I have a greater foundation that cannot be shaken because the Spirit has shown me from the Father the truth of the matter. The Father's name is in the Son's name. This is why it's important. We're gonna see it for ourselves with our own eyes in a chart that I made in for the next video. So please stick around, see the next video. Today we've learned that the W is a W. It is not a V. It is not a U. It is not an O, and it's none of these. So when you hear them say Yahusha, Yeshua, Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yahosha, when you hear all these translations, you can giggle to yourself. But please share the videos with them so they can learn the same truth and have greater blessings, which you will have once you start applying this. Be sure to come back and join us again. And until next time, please, if you have any questions or comments, leave them here or go to my Facebook. Michael Hoshai, it's open to the public. I welcome all critics as well and skeptics also. I have no problem having a discussion with anyone. I will answer your questions. So until we see you in the next and final part to this series, have a great day.